Bonita Flakes. Hey! It's Romania Black, and yeah, so I'm Inumaki this week. This is actually what I was going to cosplay as last week while I was waiting on my wig. My wig arrived today, but it is not combed out, so I can't really use it. And so I decided to be Shoko last week, and then this week I'm like, oh, I'll be Inumaki. And I know that the blonde Nanami wig that I have would be a much better choice than the Gojo wig that I'm wearing for Inumaki, but that blonde wig needs to die with fire, so... But yeah, I'm in my comfiest sweater possible with this wig that's actually surprisingly comfy, in the comfiest makeup with my comfiest cup of coffee because it hurts here. Right now in Jujutsu Kaisen, it hurts here, y'all. Things are not good. We are not in a safe space. Nope. Because last episode was all about Nanami dying, Yuji suffering against Mahito. Nobara's in danger. Everybody's in danger. It's a bad deal. It's a bad deal. Sukuna's somewhere. Well, Sukuna's inside Yuji somewhere, and Megumi's off somewhere. Uraume's off somewhere. There's just a lot of components that are not accounted for. I guess the villains not accounted for are Uraume and Brain Coon. They're the main villains not accounted for outside of Mahito. So, we're dwindling down those villains, but we're doing that with heroes too, so that's a problem. I do have some comments. I found my notebook, and I found my notebook. I did talk about some of the comments last week, so there's that. But I wanted to talk about the comments that I have before diving into this episode, so... Everybody's being a little bit quieter on Patreon and YouTube, which is a sign that things are about to go down. Usually in a big series like this, when people get quiet in the comments, they're waiting. It's like a small little like crescendo about to happen, right? And I'm a little bit terrified about it. Koga00 talked about the 10 sacred treasures, and they actually had a photo in the Discord that was shared talking about the shadow techniques and how they're connected to Megumi's summons. So if you are in the Discord, I pinned it in there so you could find it in the Discord on Patreon. But Koga kind of talked about the 10 sacred treasures connecting to the summons, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a really cool image. I'm very fascinated by the summons that Megumi has. We haven't seen all of them, I don't think, so that's exciting. There's still some tricks up Megumi's sleeve if he doesn't self-sacrifice and kill himself. That we might one day see. Who knows? And maybe Sukuna's planning for that. So that was fun. Anime Annie talked about the first time Yuji said Mahito's name was last episode. And how did he say it? By screaming in agony and grief over the loss of Nanami. I can't go back and watch that damn scene. Yuji's face when he's just slowly sauntering towards Mahito. Oh, it's heartbreaking. It truly is. I like the idea though that Yuji's giving Mahito agency, but it's in the worst way, acknowledging that he killed Nanami. I also like Anime Annie's comment about Nanami choosing not to curse Itadori or Haibara, despite the fact that he had regrets about his death. Nanami's like, no, I'm not going to curse them. I'm not going to put that on them. I'm just going to go out like a freaking adult of all adults. Like you do, right? And then Yaga and Itadori, we go back to that conversation where Yaga, the principal, is asking Itadori, would Itadori curse his grandfather when he was dying because of what his grandfather's words had been? And now we go back to that with Nanami. So, my heart goes out for Yuji. I want to give him the biggest hug possible. And I have a feeling that feeling is not going away anytime soon. We're on episode 19. We still have 20, 21, 22, 23, 4 episodes after this. No big deal. Nothing crazy happened at the end of season 1, so... That's why I'm saving my good wigs for last. Go out on a bang, right? Plus, the wig I have next week is going to be very, the one wig I'm saving because it's very Christmas toned and Christmas colored, so I'm saving it for the Christmas episode, which will be, the Christmassy episode will be for episode 22, the penultimate episode before the finale on Patreon, and then actually it'll be the New Year's episode for you all, so fun times. But yeah, and then I have Chiangmei 1265, had that Megumi Now, they said Megumi could still, and I don't know if this is correct. The moderators were very clear that some of the YouTube comments, people seemed confused. And one of the mods, Plore, said that there were some comments they didn't think were correct. And they were like, read knowing that some of these comments may not be correct. And I was like, okay. But they said they weren't spoilery. So Chang Mei 1265 says Megumi could still summon Makora in the future because Sukuna was an outsider and destroyed them outside. But now it's under Megumi's control, and if Sukuna kills it the next time, it'll be like the snake in season 1 and die. And I was like, that seems kind of counterintuitive. I don't quite understand that, because it seems like if you destroyed it as an outsider the first time, why was that a freebie? I don't think that means Megumi controls it, and I don't think he can bring it back. So I don't think Makora can come back. I could be wrong. Obviously, I don't really want to know, because if Makora comes back in the future and that's like a big plot twist, I would like to be surprised by that. But I just thought it was rather interesting. I don't know if I quite agree with that, but I've thought about bringing it up. And then finally, User V talked about how in season 1, Sukuna told Megumi to fascinate him. And then in this last couple episodes, he said, you fascinate me. So mission freaking accomplished. Now, I've had some people in the comments be like, oh, you ship Sukuna and Megumi? Ew. And I'm like, look, I don't judge y'all for any of your ships. I understand that the ship of Megumi and Sukuna is like the most toxic thing possible. And it's deplorable. And there's this tiny part in me that likes bad boys, and leave me alone. It's like, look, we have the best of both worlds. You have one body. You can either ship vanilla sugar cookie Yuji Itadori with Megumi, his little sour plum, and it's great. Or you can take spicy, flaming hot chili pepper Sukuna and have chili plums. You can have it, but you can have sugar plums, chili plums. You can have the best of both worlds. I stand by this, right? But yeah, I'm super not excited for this episode. I'm actually downright terrified about it. I've not been thinking about it all week. I've stayed off social media. I've really stayed off the Discord today. I have been terrified of this episode, and I was not looking forward to it, to be honest. So I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna have to watch this, I'm gonna be in the comfiest thing possible and be the most comfortable that I can be. So I'm in my Sully birthday cake confetti sweater. I'm being Inumaki. I'm summoning and channeling all that is pure and kind for this episode, because I have a feeling it's not gonna be kind to me. I just have a feeling, right? I just have a feeling. So before we start real quick, I want to give a very quick shout out over to Patreon, to our philanthropy tier. You all are amazing, and I greatly appreciate all of your support. Because of your support, I was able to get the wigs that I'm going to be wearing for the episode 22 and 23. I don't know what I'm going to be wearing for 20 and 21 yet. I will figure it out. It may be mojito. I honestly thought about being mojito again this week, now that Nanami's passed, and just sitting there with like a pink pocky stick being like, oh no, Nanami's gone. But then I thought maybe I'll do it next week. Damn it, if Mojito kills Nobara, I'll have to be Nobara and then Mojito, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. And then have my final 2 cosplays that I've got lined out. But y'all, I just want to give a quick shout out over to Patreon, to our philanthropy tier, who have helped me buy the wigs that I've been wearing for season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen's reactions. That includes Alex Cornejo, Anime Annie, Ashley Got Snow Bitches, Be Happy, Dana, Destiny Marie, Edgar, Eric, Kiri, as well as Matthew Puffinier, Nameless Monster, Shimoyama, Sunspots, Trails, Translucent Men, Tyrone, Zakiel, Linden, Jimmy Lujan, Aku Q, and Lexi McDaniel. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. Yeah. Bonita Flakes. Row. I'm not ready, y'all. I really am not, but what can we do? So I'm going to just gather my voice, be as calm, cool, and collected as possible, and just hope that this episode is kind to me. Please, Gege, be kind to me. So we're going to start this here, episode 19 of season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, episode 43 altogether, here in 3, 2, 1... And sure, let's do this. Salmon roe. This a hard salmon row to hoe. I can only laugh. I don't know whether to laugh or to cry, honestly, at this point. I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. I'm just kind of numb right now. I thought going into this episode, I was so distraught last week that I forgot I didn't cosplay as Shoko last week. That was 2 weeks ago. I was Panda last week. That's how distraught I was. While the episode was playing, I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't Shoko last week. I didn't go easy. I was Panda. That's how much I was like trying to not think about last episode. And then now I was just sitting there like at the ED going, because I thought about it all last week. I was like, okay, let's be rational here. Would Gege kill Nobara? Yes, he would. Of course he would. Of course he would. And I brought Whiteboard Kun out because we could line out some things. Because at this point, what I think they're going to do with Yuji's character, what I think Yuji's character is headed for, where I think his character is headed for, we can't have Nobara. We can't have Nanami. We can't have Gojo. No. So my theories about where Yuji's character is headed in this series, Nobara can't be alive for. So the moment that Mahito is up against her this episode, I was like, oh, she's going to die. And I've convinced myself of this, and it's my coping mechanism so I don't cry. Because I'm like, my two favorite characters, Gege! You took out the queen herself and Nanami in the same damn episode with the same damn looking at Yuji being like, you go get him, buddy. It's all up to you now. It wasn't so bad. Son of a bitch. How do y'all expect me to cope? There's no booze in this. Next week there probably will be. But who else can he lose? So, okay, let's talk about what I think before we get in this episode, because I don't know how much I have to talk about this episode. I want to talk about the flashback, obviously, with Nobara and Fumi. And the flashback. The flashback makes a little bit more sense now, knowing it's from Fumi and Sayori's perspective, since Nobara's dead. And it started to feel that way about the time that Sayori started getting in there and being like, man, I wonder if Nobara's proud or if she's doing all right. I was like, oh shit, she's gonna die. I'm like, Gege, you gotta stop being so predictable, right? You gotta stop being predictable. Game of Thrones, you started knowing people were gonna die off, and it all became the how and why. Here, I don't know. We'll talk about Nobara's death. I'm not intensely satisfied with it, for reasons, but it didn't go exactly as I expected, but it kind of did, and so we're gonna talk about it. I guess we'll talk about it in reality, as Huckleberry is asking me and begging me to play with him. So here's my thing, before we dive into this episode, where I think we're going to get with Yuji. My theory has been for the last several episodes, as we've gotten, Mahito's whole thing is he wants to break Yuji, right? Mahito wants to break Yuji. Now, do I still think Todo is going to come in and help Yuji? Yeah, they're best friendos, best brothers. Do I think Todo's going to die? I don't think so, but I don't know. I feel like Toto's gonna get out, right? The moment Nobara left Nita and went off on her own, I was like, girl, you got Death Wish, right? Well, she's kind of crazy, right? So here's my thing. I think the whole point is to get Yuji isolated. To get him isolated and either killed or Sukuna resurrected. That has been the goal of the Burger King, I feel, for quite some time, right? Because I don't think the Burger King wants anything to do with Sukuna. It could barely hold up, like, Ghetto's ass choking him while he's possessing his body. There's no way he can handle Sukuna. Absolutely not. Sukuna would override that brain in a heartbeat. So the Burger King, I think their whole idea is that, well, we either isolate Yuji and either we use Mahito to kill Yuji. That's one plan. Or we have Uraume is here to woo Sukuna. I feel like those are Brain Coon's big things. I feel like Jogo and Hanamari and Dagon, I feel like they were all just pawns of the Burger King to basically, Burger King, Brain Coon, he knew that Jogo, Hanami, and Hanami, not Hanamari, Hanami and Dagon, he knew that they didn't like humanity anyway, that they would be very easy to manipulate, and they'd be very easy to use against the Jujutsu sorcerers because that's just how their ideologies are. So he's like, no, easy sweep, can use. With Mahito don't really give a shit about humanity. He's born from humanity. He's like, he's just chaos. So he's like, well, I can use him to try to kill Yuji while he's in Itadori form. Can't handle it. If he can't kill Yuji, he'll at least torture him and put him in this sense of despair. And that sense of despair, if it doesn't kill him, will potentially get Sukuna to come out. And then Uraume, ye old bestie from his high school days, is there to woo him over to the side of just causing chaos and just being, you know, basically running amok in general. Now, the thing about it is, I think in the long run, the Burger King Brain-kun does not want Sukuna to be around. I think in the long haul, Brain-kun probably would find Sukuna to be a threat because Sukuna doesn't give a shit. He'd probably be like, oh, Brain-kun, bye, blip. And Brain-kun's not that strong. So I think ideally, in an ideal world, Brain-kun would be like, let's just get rid of Itadori and have him not in the picture at all. However, there is something that is a little bit weird about that, because it's like, if that were the case, if you were truly intimidated by Yuji, why not just have Mahito kill him off automatically? Why not just be like, everybody just go after Yuji and kill him? He never really came out to Jogo and Hanami and Dagon and Mahito when they were all arguing with Choso, and we'll put Choso up here in a second. I'm saving Choso because I'm getting to this point. He never said outright, oh yeah, let's just kill him. If he thought he was that much of a threat without being Sukuna, why would you want to bring him back and resurrect him? Why not just keep the fingers, kill Yuji, and give him to someone else? So I think that while Brain-kun is totally okay with the idea of Yuji dying because he could be a threat, he doesn't really want to mess with Sukuna in the long haul. I still feel like there is something missing. There is something connecting Brain-kun and Yuji. And that's why he's not ready to get rid of him yet. There's some reason they're keeping Yuji alive. And it's not just for Sukuna, because I don't think Sukuna is really to the advantage of Brain-kun in the long run. Because we've seen Sukuna don't give a shit, and Sukuna's only here for himself. He's here for himself and whatever he deems worthy, which at the moment is Megumi. So Sukuna doesn't really care about Brain-kun at all. He's just like, oh, hey, Uraume, we're besties from high school. Great to see you again. What's up? But Sukuna's going to do whatever he damn well pleases. And I don't think that really jives with Brain-kun. But Brain-kun doesn't really have a choice right now. I feel like Brain-kun is connected somehow to Yuji. He wants Yuji alive for some reason. But Sukuna is like Sukuna is a nuisance to Brain-kun. Sukuna is something that really Brain-kun does not want to deal with. If he could avoid it, that'd be great. So let's just not have him come out unless we need it to, right? But if it does come out, we'll roll with it. We'll just make it work for the moment being. But he wants Yuji for some reason. And that's where I think Choso comes in. Because Choso is kind of our weird, odd guy out too, right? He's not really connected to Dagon, Hanami, or Jogo. He's not really connected to Mahito either. Choso's just out here as the curse painting, all by his lonesome with his other little fetuses in the jars, just chilling out. And I feel like Choso is connected with Yuji as well. Obviously from the weird dream, the fake memories, all of that. So, and maybe Choso is connected to the Burger King, and that's why the Burger King wanted him to get it too. I don't know. We talked about the idea that the camo woman that gave birth to Choso and them, was she like, we never saw her again. They didn't talk about it. Did they like put her in stasis and then is she Yuji's mom? I don't know. Is that how because it said in the dream, he was like, oh, we're brothers. So, but then again, how is that even possible? Who's Yuji's dad if that's the case? The grandfather seems to know Yuji. And there's a lot of questions. Like there's a question of, is the grandfather of Yuji a biological granddad? If he is, then how did the son hook up with Yuji's mom? That would kind of shatter the whole camo woman thing here, because then the grandpa seems like a normal guy. He doesn't seem like he's tied to any jujutsu sorcerers or anything like that. And if he is, nobody knows about it. And the Jujutsu Sorcerer Society seems like a very close-knit community. Like, oh, I know you, you know me, we know each other's clans, we know our clans, where they all live. Like, I don't think that Yuji could be from a sorcerer background without Gojo or somebody knowing about it. So I don't think that's the case. So what's the deal with his parents? Are they tied to the Burger King or to Choso? We don't know. That's not been explained to us yet. So there's a missing link there, right? But I think that what's going to happen is that they're trying to isolate Yuji. They are trying to isolate him. And then something's going to have to give. When they isolate him, either it's to kill him, which I think Mahito would be fine with. It's to draw out Sukuna in his despair, which could very well happen by the end of the season. Why not? Or what I think could possibly happen is that it drives him to Choso. And then the big question is, does Brain Kun account for that? Because I think that Choso, whatever he saw when the blood mixed with him and Yuji, that has fundamentally changed. Choso went off to go have an existential crisis somewhere. Choso's flipping out somewhere, tripping balls. So the question is going to be, when Choso comes down off his high, is he going to suddenly be like, oh my god, Yuji, we're related. Did you know that? I'm super devoted to my brothers. You're technically my brother. What do we do with that? And Yuji's going to be like, the fudge? So, and honestly, I want to see more of Choso. And I want Yuji, because here's the problem. If Yuji, because right now, who do we have left on the field of good guys? We have an Inumaki somewhere. Bonita Flakes is somewhere. Inumaki, Panda, Kusakabe. They are somewhere. We don't know where. Nita is on the outside. Nita's on the outside. She's safe. Ino and Megumi are with Yara and Shoko. Gojo's in the box. Gojo's living his Alice in Chains fantasy. He's in the little box, having a good old time there, right? And then that's it! We don't know where Todo is. Oh, wait, no, Meme. We don't know where Todo is. Udahime, what's she up to? No idea. Is Yuta gonna get involved in all this? I'm gonna talk about Yuta in a minute. Those three, no idea. Miwa's probably still mourning Mekamaru for all we know. Is Mekamaru still around? Is his other little thing, is it still there? Has Mekamaru done anything, or is he completely destroyed? I don't think so. Is he communicating with any of them? I would not be surprised if Mekamaru communicated with Todo, found him and got him to go over to try to rescue Yuji. That'd be great. We don't know about Kamo. We don't know about Mei or Momo, although I don't know what the hell those three would do at this point. Maki is incapacitated or dead. I feel Maki is just MIA. I do not feel that Maki is dead, because otherwise we just killed Nanami and Nobara. Why would we not show Maki? Now Bito, I swear. Now Bito and Ijichi. Gege, I love you. I love this series an awful lot. This series is great. It's one of my favorites. I've waited years to get here. I've waited years to get here, Gege. And if you freaking tell me that Ijichi and now Bito live, but Nobara and Nanami don't? What is this cruel reality? What is this cruel world? Why is this a thing? Stop. Yeah, no, so now Bito and Ichiji, they're MIA along with Maki, but yeah, so far Nobara, Nanami, Toji, all the hot ones are dead. Gege's like, we're gonna have just uggos left in this series. There's gonna be no hot ones left. You're stuck with two teenagers. Yuji and Megumi are now officially the trades of the season. That's what we're left with. How dare you? Wait. Mei. I'm forgetting about Mei. Mei is over here with her bro. We've got Mei. We've got Mei Mei and Ui Ui. They're here. Mei Mei is now the trait of the season. Long live the queen. Gege, if you freaking kill Mei Mei, I will kill you. I will hunt you down, sir. I won't kill you, but I will throw fully loaded markers at your doorstep. I will do that, please, sir. Why? So yeah, Mei Mei and Toto are the two hottest people now. And Yuki's somewhere out on her motorcycle somewhere. But yeah, so what we're left with, I mean, my theory has been, after this episode, that Nobara and Nanami were Yuji's tie to the Jujutsu world alongside Gojo. Like, all of Yuji's ties, his closest ties to the Jujutsu sorcerer world, are pretty much severed. Nanami is gone. He watched Nanami die. He just watched Nobara die, which is what Mojito wanted. He wanted to, like, crush Yuji's soul. And then we have the idea that Gojo's in the box, so Yuji can't get to him. The three closest people, aside from Megumi, that Yuji is closest to, along with Junpei, out of here. So all he has is his best friendo and his boyfriendo. So that's all he's got left, are those two, seriously. I mean, Yuji was not around during the games to get close to Maki, to Momo, to Inumaki and the others. He wasn't around them, so he doesn't really have a connection to them, right? I mean, they know him, and they're like, oh, hey, Itadori. But in all honesty, Panda and all them, they're closer to Yuta. So here's what I think is going to happen at this point. I think that Megumi is out of commission. And even if Megumi was not out of commission, I think that Megumi is in a precarious situation because he's going to be like, Megumi's going to go into his emo phase, his emo era, where he was like, I wasn't strong enough to save Itadori and blah, blah, blah. And he's going to and then he's going to find out about Nobara and be like, the fudge, and Nanami and be like, the fudge. Megumi's going to be like, the two people that I was close with too are gone. What do we do about that? And so I feel like Yuji is going to be driven to go with Choso. I think by the end of the season, Yuji is going to go with Choso. And I think that for a number of reasons. I think that, one, Choso's going to come off of his acid trip and be like, holy shit, Yuji and I are somehow connected and related, possibly. I gotta go find him. He's my only relative. Choso is like a family man. Choso is like dedicated. He's ride or die for his blood family. And if he finds out that him and Yuji are blood, he's like, I gotta go find him. Meanwhile, the higher-ups, they just talked on the television about Shibuya being a terrorist attack, and they're trying to pass it off as such. But then who do you pass the blame to? How do you pass the blame to who, right? Because it's the Jujutsu sorcerers and it's the curses. So who is the outside world and the normies gonna blame? And what are the results of that going to be? You can't exactly say it was like a Chernobyl incident, right? Like, are they going to say, oh, there was an explosion? Well, what caused it? The factors haven't always been there, so what do you do with it? So I think the higher-ups are going to be like, no, Yuji's got to go. Yuji's got to die. That's just how this is going to go down. He's got to go. And I think they're going to they're going to tell everybody to kill Yuji. And the problem is, his two biggest supporters outside of Megumi, Nanami, well, Gojo, we include three. Nanami, Gojo, and Nobara are either dead or incapacitated. They can't speak for Yuji. They can't defend him. I think that Toto would defend him, but everybody kind of has the mentality that Toto is like, I don't think they don't take Toto seriously, but at the same time, I feel like they're just like, oh, Toto. It's just Toto, right? I feel like they take him seriously enough, but he's not going to change the mind of the higher-ups. Urahime doesn't really know Yuji, neither does Shoko. The principal, Yara, I feel like Kim and the old man, their hands are going to be tied, and they're going to be like, well, what can we do? Panda is not going to have any influence. Kusakabe and Umaki are not going to have any influence. Nita, what's she going to do? Maki doesn't really know Yuji, and she's going to be pissed because her possible could-be girlfriend Nobara is now dead. And then Mei's just out for whoever pays the most money, so she's going to be like, oh, Yuji, I'm sorry, man, I really love you, kid, but they're paying me $1 million to track you down, so I'm going to go where the money is, no hard feelings, right? Like, that's going to be Mei. She's going to be like, no hard feelings, but I'm going where the money is. I mean, it would be a cool It would be a cool subversion for her character if she chose to spare Yuji despite the money. That'd be a nice plot twist with Mei Mei's character, but do I see it happening? Now, then we have Yuta. Yuta, I don't know, right? Because on the surface, I would think that Yuta and Yuji would be best friends. I think on the surface that Yuji and Yuta would be like, we are going to be the bestest of friends. This is going to be great. We're very similar, you and I. We both are loving, compassionate people. Let's just go be best friendos. Like in the same vein as Todo and Yuji, right? But here's the thing. Yuta has no ties to Yuji whatsoever. He's never met him before. And Yuta has a lot of ties to Gojo, right? A lot of ties to Gojo and a lot of ties to his classmates. And Yuta is also kind of like, Yuta's this weird mix of Yuji and Megumi, kind of. So, because he has no clue about Yuji, I'm wondering if Yuta is going to start out with the same kind of mentality that Megumi had starting out, where Megumi didn't really trust Yuji and was like, I don't know how to feel about you. I feel like Yuta might start out feeling the same way. I feel like if they got to know each other and talk to one another, and I could be totally wrong. I could be way off the mark. Could be so off the mark, it's not even funny. Don't tell me. Don't spoil me. But I'm wondering if the end of this season is going to be the higher-ups telling Yuta, being like, look, it's Yuji Itadori's fault that Gojo is sealed. We want him eliminated. He has a curse, the king of curses inside of him that could destroy all of the world if he's set free. Will you kill him for us? And Yuta, with his sword on his back, will be like, sure. Because he doesn't know Yuji. He has no clue. And the higher-ups don't know the full context of the story. They're just getting the bits and pieces and the narrative they want to construct. So if Yuta believes that Yuji is responsible for Gojo getting in the box, and they scapegoat Yuji because they need somebody to kill, sure. So does that mean, would that mean that Megumi would have to come down here and fight Yuta? But Megumi respects Yuta. So it's like, I could see this becoming this big drama where Yuta is charged with the task of killing Yuji from the higher-ups. Gojo can't tell Yuta otherwise because he's stuck in the box. Megumi respects Yuta, and Megumi's going to be in the situation of, well, because I didn't fulfill the sacrifice I was trying to make, I let Sukuna run rampant. I'm partially responsible. I have no right to tell Yuta no. So Megumi's not going to get involved directly because he doesn't feel he's obligated to, or doesn't feel he has any right to. Nobody else really understands the situation. Now, Inumaki saw Yuji for a moment, but not enough to make a difference. So, if that's the case, Yuji, who's isolated from everybody else, I think is going to run into Choso. Choso's going to be like, hey, we could be related. I want you to come with me so I can tell you about your past and how this possibly all connects. And I think the season, at this point, we got 4 episodes left. I think the season's going to build up. And I wouldn't be surprised if the season finale was like Yuta coming in being like, I'll kill Itadori. And Choso's being like, we got to go together. We need to get away from Mahito, get away from Brain-kun, get away from the Jujutsu Society that wants to destroy you. You come with me, Yuji, and I'll tell you all the secrets you want to know. And they're going to leave us on that damn cliffhanger. Or, we've got 4 episodes left, or next episode, Choso comes out, grabs Yuji, and goes, and it's like, hey, let's talk about this, and we get backstory before the end of the season. That'd be amazing. That'd be great. I'd be all for that. But yeah, because I don't know. Because my thing is, too, Choso is not really committed to Brain-kun at all. The other cursed users that are with Geto, which I guess we can put them on here, the other cursed users that are with Geto are tied to Brain-kun because they believe Brain-kun's living out Geto's philosophy. Choso's not. Choso and his brothers said they were just joining the curses because they thought that was the best odds. They were like, we're not really loyal to them at all. We're not loyal to the Jujutsu sorcerers or the curses. We're kind of in this weird limbo between curse and humanity, which Yuji could very well be a part of as well. So I can feel like Choso's like, hey, want to come off with me and let's go? Maybe they'll run into Yuki. Yuki seemed pretty damn determined to make some kind of change in the system. Maybe they run into Yuki and then Choso and Yuki and Yuji hang out. That'd be great. I'd give a lot to see that. But something has to help Yuji's mental state, because damn it, this episode's not helping it at all. Not helping it at all. I'm like, I don't know how Yuji's getting out of this. He's not getting out of it unscathed. No, his psyche is gonna be like But like, what could help save Yuji at this point? And I think the only chance is for like Todo to step in, for the Yuki woman to step in and be a surprise, Deus Ex Machina, or for Choso to show up and be like, come with me if you want to live, and go, right? Right? I don't know. I just theorized a whole damn bunch. I could be 1,000 times off the mark. But the fun thing is, we have only 4 more episodes, so it's all got to go somewhere, right? Right? It's all got to go somewhere, so something's got to happen, right? As I crazily talk into the wind, sure. All right, so I've only spent 30 minutes talking about this random theory. Let's get into the episode and talk a little bit about it. The moment that Nobara like just started walking off down the street, entered the Vale and saw Shibuya wrecked. The one thing I am sad about is that we don't get to see her reaction to the Vale. We don't get to see the reaction to Shibuya's destruction. She just enters it and we see it ourselves, but we've already seen it before. So I am a little bit sad we don't get to see her reaction from that. That would have been really nice. And then Right and Wrong Part 2. F you. Gege. Come on now. Screw you, right? I don't know who else we have at this point to go. Again, we don't have Geto using that little weird piranha plant. So there's that. And then Megumi versus Toji. We see that. I'm assuming the person rising from the flames was Nanami. Son of a bitch. And then, yeah. And Yuji's all alone again by the end of this season. So is he going to be all alone? It would seem like a narrative choice for Yuji to be alone and he chooses. Or it could be one of those things where Choso gives him the option. Choso's like, hey, if you want to find out about your past, you come with us and I'll tell you. And then at the very end, Yuji's like, well, the people I care about are either dead, are against me, or are going to try and kill me because they're being forced by the higher ups. So I guess I don't have any choice but to go with him. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But, God, so Mahito in this episode, I might be cosplaying as Mahito next week. Maybe. I might be Mahito next week. Why not bring him out one more time? Why not? Mahito reminded me a lot of Elder Toguro from Yu Yu Hakusho in this episode, especially with their, the way that their arms kind of became this, slimy, but sickle worm. It reminded me a lot of Elder Toguro from Yu Yu Hakusho. The vibe that Mahito gives off is a lot like Elder Toguro, for sure. And then there's just some of the animation and movement in this episode where the bodies were dropping. You felt the weight of those bodies dropping. And then at this point, anybody that's been touched by Mahito, you're just like, it's either going to be used as a trap or it's just disgusting. Mahito is just the worst. The worst. And being used to try to get Mahito. Meanwhile, we see Nobara fighting Mahito on this side. I started to get a little bit hopeful. Gege lures us into a false sense of security whenever they were like, oh, well, Mahito, that is something important to note. If Mahito splits themselves up, not all of the parts of Mahito can cause the transfiguration. It's just the core part. So that's really important to know. Because if Mahito has to split up again, it is a narrative device that Gege can use to justify someone getting touched by Mahito in the future. Just a way of justification. So that was nice, and that lulled me into a false sense of security where I was like, oh, well, all she has to do is get rid of this version of Mahito, right? Right? No, it's not easy at all. And then what's interesting, of course, is the fact that Mahito, this version, the doppelganger of him, he calls Nanami that 7-3 sorcerer, and they all call him Patchface. So it's the thematic elements of them not calling them by each other's name. I always feel weird when people call them, when they call Nobara Kunisaki. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like her name. He's like, I can't interfere with the souls of others. It's just hard. And I thought the animation was pretty good throughout this episode. I just was like, son of a bitch, why are we doing this? I do love the idea that Nobara's attack could go through the one doppelganger and get to the original. That part was good. And then Mahito saying, Yuji Itadori wasn't my only natural enemy. It's a very weird way for Mahito to say that. I do like seeing Mahito look flustered and kind of crazy there. But Mahito realizing that Nobara is just as much of a threat as Yuji. So she has to go. And her looking crazy there. Nobara giving us some beautiful, crazy looks. I was living for it. I'm going to get a screenshot of that. Living for it. Ugh. My heart. And then, yeah. I love Yuji getting all the blows in on him. Yuji just going. I wanted him to get a black flash so bad. I wanted Yuji to get a black flash on Mahito. I wanted Yuji and Nobara to join up together and do the black flash against him just like they did Eso and Ketchizo. But it's like Gege was setting everything up to mirror the end of last season. In episodes 23, right? And 24, where he was setting everything up that we think as the audience, we're like, oh, this is going to be like a big parallel to last season when Yuji and Nobara teamed up together and we had the conversation at the end and it was all great and yeah, go team. And then Gege's like, oh, you think I'm doing that a second time? Oh, that's funny. You're like, no. And Yuji saying, I couldn't save anyone. I caused everyone's efforts to end in vain. I don't like how Yuji is so down on himself. I'm like, Yuji, it's not all your fault. It's the culmination of a lot of things. And they were planning from this from the beginning. You can't blame yourself for all this. But he does. And so then he saves Nobara and says, even so, he said, you let me believe that I'm not alone. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch, Yuji. It's so sad. I want to get a shot of Yuji, like, right before. I'm like, why? He looks so good there. And I'm like, now that Nobara's gone, Yuji is going to think that he's alone. I mean, I know that he knows that Megumi is there, but it's almost like him and Megumi have a pact of we don't want to cause each other to really suffer. So they're like, we'll do our own thing. I hate it. I hate it here. For the record, hate it here. It's not good. I was really hoping that I was getting my hopes up being like, oh, come on, Gege. You're not gonna kill her, right? And Gege's like, I am. I'm like, so yeah, the moment Nobara goes down the basement, she's like, oh, I've got him in the basement. It's perfect. I'm like, no, it's not perfect. It's the furthest thing from perfect. Why would you think it's perfect, Nobara? Why would you do that, girl? And then Yuji, like, realizing they split apart. When Mahito becomes the tiny little Pikmin versions of himself that are all, like, just going off. They look so ugly, but they're kind of cute. And I'm like, stop it. Quit making Mahito seem like he's cute. He's not. And then you see the train stop sign, the train sign that tells the different lines. I feel like part of the reason they had the timeline this entire go was so that you would follow the train lines. And then when you see that sign of things converging, you're like, son of a bitch, they're going to meet up. I thought when they met up, I thought Mahito was going to come back together into one body and attack both of them. And it was going to be this big, drawn out, dramatic thing. Nope. Instead, it's even worse. He switches with the other version of himself. They tag out, and the version that can manipulate souls. The moment they passed one another, I was like, because Nobara had come to the conclusion, and she had touted. Nobara's biggest weakness was that she got overconfident, and she thought that she had it all figured out. And she's like, oh, well, this is how your technique works, and I know you can't hurt me if you touch me now. And the moment they swapped, I was like, it's over. She's not going to dodge because she thinks that there's no way he can hurt her. And she was distracted seeing Yuji, and that just adds fuel to the fire. I was like, can we end one episode without Yuji about to have a mental breakdown? Can we end one episode without a mental breakdown cliffhanger? Can we do that, Gege? Can you do this? Were you guys reading this while season 1 was going on? What? You liars! I was like, I love Nobara, and they're like, she's great. You sons of bitches. You lied to me. You made me believe she was going to be a long-running character. And then, damn it, all he did was touch her face once. And Yuji's saying, run. He's like, run away. And that's all he did was touch her. And that's it. And he's like, I hit you dead on. He's like a little kid. Mahito's like a little kid playing tag. Like it was no big deal. He's like, tag, you're it. I do think it's interesting to note that he was like, now I touched Nanami and he didn't die. So are you going to be as strong as Nanami? But yeah, the one version of him got smashed up against the wall, but not this version. He's like, what about her? Is she as strong? And she wasn't. Now, in 2009, we cut back to like 10, 11 years ago or whatever, and we have this video game and all this, and Nanami being this super confident kid. The moment we got sudden backstory, I was like, well, she's probably dead, but maybe, just maybe. I had several thoughts in this flashback. I thought on the one hand, I thought maybe Nobara's going to pull something out of her ass at the last minute and like activate something, and like the roses would come up about her. She'd get like all the roses on her, and like instead of the eye, like the rose would come out of it and be like this big thing, and she'd attack Mahito. I really thought that was gonna happen, and I was like, oh, cool, awesome, yes, she's gonna like beat it and be fine. Thought that was gonna happen. And then when this was going on, I don't know why, but at first we switched perspectives from Nobara to Fumi's perspective. I thought this crazy theory in my head that I was like, well, we've had two mojitos splitting in half and like do it through osmosis and then coming back together. I thought maybe Nobara had like, as a jujutsu sorcerer, had like somehow like cursed this Fumi girl, and she became a curse that was like inside Nobara. And then when Nobara instead of like it, like the Fumi girl's spirit would be like Rika and come out her eye and then attack Mahito. I thought that was gonna happen. I thought for a hot second this was gonna be about like the Fumi girl basically becoming this like cursed spirit in her eye that would come out and attack Mahito instead. I had a whole thing lined out. I had a whole alternate reality lined out because I was like, why are we getting this from her perspective? I had the idea that Fumi or Yumi, whatever her name is, I had the idea that her and Nobara, like they merged souls, and that's why we were getting both their narratives at the same time. I was a fool to believe. A fool to believe. Yeah. And so then, yeah, we get this whole backstory about the blue backpack. Now, want to make note, this creepy ass town they lived in was like a cult. It was weird. They didn't like blue backpacks. The kids were mean. Nobara was like, it's all right. Everybody's just kind of crazy here, but we're all good. And then the idea of like Sayori, like her first period happens and she gets like the neighbors bring red beans when their first period happens. I'm like, who the fudge does that? That's the creepiest thing in the world. Like, yeah, the old lady next door brought rice to celebrate my first period. I'm like, is this the village? Is this the Handmaid's Tale? What is happening here? So, yeah, weird village. But I like Nobara's understanding of it in that and what she talks about, I think is important. And I wish Yuji could understand that. And I don't know if it's going to come back to Yuji understanding it or not, but one of Nobara's things was that oftentimes the loud voices seem like the majority. She's like, I thought everybody in this town was crazy because the voices of the loudest people around me made me believe that. But that wasn't the case. It was just the creepy people that were being loud when the rest of the village was pretty, like the kids doing the vandalism, the creepy people, they were the loudest voices. So she assumed it was the majority, but that wasn't the case. And I'm hoping that translates to Yuji. Right now, Mahito is the loudest voice in the room. And Mahito is telling Yuji that there's nothing but despair around him. And Yuji has been believing that. And so my only hope is that an equally loud voice like Toto comes in the next episode or two and is like, no, best friendo, we can't give up. No. Now, am I worried about Toto? Yes. But do I think that there's a good chance him and Yuji could fight Mahito? Why not? Why not? So I'm just like, oh my God. So yeah, I hope that Toto's voice is able to drown out Mahito's loud voice that's kind of invading the room, right? And we got to see Sayori again. I'd forgotten her name. She looks like a weird combination of Fumi and Nobara. And then I like this idea too that Sayori, that she has this like soft feminine presence, and she gets like Nobara to kind of imitate her a little bit, right? What's interesting to note is Nobara didn't have a thing for Fumi, clearly, because this is not my hypothesis here. Whoever Nobara likes, she emulates a little bit, right? She emulates a little bit people that she likes. So she likes Sayori, so she kind of makes herself more feminine and soft, kind of emulating her. And then later, when she meets Maki's a freaking badass. Like, give her a moto jacket and a motorbike, and she's ready to go. And Nobara kind of started emulating that kind of like tough outer exterior around her, right? So, but one thing I liked about Nobara is she was always herself. So even when we first met her, she was like, had this weird combination of, she wasn't dainty, but she was still very kind of posh. But she was putting on airs, trying to like not seem like a farm girl, but she was herself, and she was not afraid to, you know, dress in a skirt, but also like kick people's asses. And I love that about Nobara's character. And so I liked getting her backstory and seeing her character and kind of how the experiences with Sayori and Fumi kind of fleshed out. But it almost seemed like Fumi's backstory. It honestly seemed like we're looking at it from her perspective and seeing Nobara. And then we get the stuff about Sayori that we knew from season 1 and her being so sad that she moved away. And then, you know, Fumi kind of getting upset that she was going away and leaving her. Yeah, Fumi, there we go. And then they end up like having a moment where Nobara is sad to see her go, and she starts crying. And I love that as they're going away, like Nobara shows that she is sad for Fumi that she's leaving her, and she like tears up, and then Fumi has a little bloop and like instantly gets the blush and the teary eyes. That was really cute. That was really well done. I liked that. But then we go to Sayori-chan, who's working at this like journalism magazine, looks like a magazine company, and she's wondering if Nobara would be proud of her, because she's not going out doing this illustrious. Sayori in Nobara's memory is pristine and beautiful and flawless, and the Sayori that we see, you know, from years later is not flawless. She has bags under her eyes. She's just living this adult life. And she looks like she kind of regrets some of her life choices because the life isn't exactly what she anticipated when she talked to Nobara. And she's like, I put on all these airs and served these little kids tea, but I was really just, you know, faking it, right? And that can kind of tie that idea of her faking it, ties to Nobara in the moment of her death where she kind of fakes it to Yuji, being like, no, I didn't have a bad life at all. Like, she didn't want to curse. You know, just she was like Nanami. She didn't want to curse her existence at the end. But yeah, it's just like, I also get the impression that Sayori, there's a bunch of ladies loving ladies in this series, because, which I'm all for, because that one girl that's hanging out with Sayori, I'm like, are you guys girlfriends? Is this something here? Did Fumi want to be girlfriends with Nobara? What's going on? And she never gave her contact info to Nobara. So like they wouldn't meet up. She's like, I hope Nobara's doing well. And then I'm like, the moment she said, I hope Nobara is doing well, I'm like, well, Gege, you son of a bitch. And then we see all the chairs. Everyone in the village was crazy, but that notion was never true. The crazy ones have the louder voices. So they trample all over other people's lives. And we see, yeah. And then we see the couch with Yuji and Megumi and Gojo on it. I like that in her mind, Megumi's just staring off into space, being too cool for school, but Yuji and Gojo are the same. Like, to her, that's how they seem. Like, they're so happy-go-lucky. Megumi's like, you know. And then we see Maki, of course, with Panda and Inumaki. And then her all by herself. And she's like, that wasn't the case. Oh. And then she looks over and sees Fumi in the one chair and then realizes that she can't keep her promise. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep our promise. And the chair falling over, I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Why are you showing us Yuji's face? Why? And then the moment she's just sitting there, like Nanami, looking pristine, I was waiting for her head to just explode, scanner style. I was waiting for it. I was like, oh my god, are you really gonna do this? Really gonna do this, Mappa? And then she says, it wasn't so bad after all. And she just dies right in front of him. Right in front of him. Oh my god. I'm like, well, this is absolutely amazing. We're having the best time here. Yuji just says her name. No worries. We're all good. It's a great time. So what do I think is going to happen next episode? Unless somehow Nobara, like, wakes from the dead and is like, psych, gotcha, I had a secret ability this whole time, let's wreck Mahito's shit. Unless that happens, which would be amazing, would be all here for it. Unless that happens, I don't know. I feel like Yuji is gonna freak the fudge out. I don't know. Or he's either gonna freak out or just crawl into a hole of despair, and Mahito's gonna be like, I gotcha, Yuji, right where I want you, and then I think Toto's gonna show up next episode. That's my prediction. I think Toto's gonna show up next episode, and maybe we'll find out what's happening with Choso. Maybe we'll see something with the higher-ups being like, this is a problem. Because now we're finding out the outside world knows about Shibuya, and that's a big thing. So the other Jujutsu sorcerers are gonna have to start doing damage control now. So the question is, did Panda and Inumaki and Shoko and all of them get out? You know, with Nita and them? What do we do with this? So I'm so sad that Nobara's death was just that. It was not like Nanami's death. Nanami had this beautiful, like, where was my Nanami flashback? Where was my Nanami abs? Where's my Nanami, like, beautiful flashback with his character? Why didn't we get that, Gege? I mean, Nanami's was a beautiful death in that it was this, like, symphony, and it was all this, like, elaborate, it was going out in style, it was all these things. And then he got the moment with Yuji, like, the stare, like, you know, I'm passing it on to you. It was all those things. And then this death was just, like, done. That was it. You got a flashback. I mean, I guess Gege is like, what? I gave you a flashback story. What more do you want? But her death was just so sudden that, and that's the point. The point is to not give you any time to grieve. The point is to not give you any time to go, I feel like this is the end of a chapter in the manga where the manga just ends and you're like, oh, it's what? She's just dead? What? That's it? Like, it just happens. And it's like, there's no fanfare. It's just she gets that backstory and then boop, it's over. And I guess some people could argue the backstory was the fanfare, but I'm like, I haven't even processed Nanami's death last week. I blocked it out of my mind to cope, and now you're telling me my two favorite characters are gone? We're just going to be able to... Maybe he's the only one we got simp for now. Maybe and Toto are the only simps we got. Megumi. Sukuna, I guess. Whose abs am I going to look forward to? Joking. Ah, man. Shibuya's a fun time. Shibuya's been a fun time. We still got 4 more episodes to go. I wonder what fresh fun Gege is going to give us next week. Well, we're going to have to find out, won't we? So... I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below, but I'm back next week with another exciting and fun episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. Bye!